The art community is at war once again. Artists attacking other artists day after day, mercilessly destroying each other's characters. It almost seems like this happens every year. Oh wait, that's because it does. It's Artfight time, everybody! If you happen to not know what Artfight is, simply put, it's an art trading game where you draw characters from the artist on the opposite team. This year's teams are crystals versus fossils, and you know your girl had to go with crystals. No offense to Team Fossils, but crystals are so much cooler and prettier, so I was not about to choose some dead animal's remains for my team. Anyway, if you're confused on how Artfight works, you should get a pretty decent grasp from this video, but I will not go into very much detail. There are plenty of awesome videos out there if you would like to learn more about Artfight. I will be showing you all the attacks I have done for the first 2 weeks of Artfight in this video, which includes a very special attack at the end, so make sure you stick around to see it. And that is enough yapping, so let's get into the first drawing. For my first attack, I decided to draw Nemea by Odd Otter. I mean, this character is so adorable. I had to draw her first. I just love the wings and the hair and just the overall vibe. At first, I really didn't know what kind of pose I wanted to put her in. I was thinking of this top-down view where you could see her whole outfit very clearly, but it just really wasn't working for me. So I switched to this more like kneeling, looking up at the sky pose, and this really clicked. Right now I'm going into my cleanup sketch. I do a lot of cleanup sketches throughout my process. It just kind of depends on how messy I'm being or how unsure I am of what I'm drawing. And this drawing was a struggle. I am not used to drawing these head tilted, like lower views, so I was having a bit of a hard time with this one. I wanted to make her expression very soft, almost like she was longing for something, you know, just looking at the sky. I don't know, this character was kind of giving me like post-apocalyptic type vibes. I don't know, something about her being like an angel with all these flowers on her made me really think of this like old post-apocalyptic world. So that was kind of the scene I wanted to put her in. For Artfight this year, I was really trying to use every attack as like an exercise to learn something new. And since this was my first attack, I was going for more of my own style, something safer, but I wanted to make sure this drawing looked like a poster that this person could put up in their room. I wanted it to be a really fleshed out finished painting that held a story. At this point in the drawing process, I was starting to feel very claustrophobic with my canvas, so I decided to try out some new compositions and just move the character around. I rotated her to be more like she was sitting on the ground looking at the sky, and this was the pose I went with. It felt very like right for this character. Here you can see my first attempt at the background. I really don't know what I was doing. I was just messing around with my plant brushes and I think it looked really bad. So I looked up some reference on Pinterest of like old temples and I decided to go for this kind of very sacred looking atmosphere. Use your references, guys. If you're stuck on a drawing, look up pictures. It's the best thing you can do. I would not be able to finish this picture if I hadn't looked up reference, and I really wish more people would use it. I know there's like a stigma around like using references. People think it's cheating, It's not. They're so good for you, and just don't be afraid to use references. Use as many as possible. It will really help out your process. I started adding these circles around the window to help with this circle theme I was going for in my background. I did not keep these. They look kind of weird, but anyway, I started messing around with all my plant brushes again, just to get like an idea of where I wanted this grass to be. You do not need these fancy brushes to make a background. I cover all of this up in the end. You don't see any of it. It was just to help me get an idea of what I was doing. I loved rendering this grass, okay? It was so relaxing. It was so much fun. Backgrounds, I know people hate them, but sometimes they can be way more relaxing than trying to do a character, because nature is random and it doesn't have many rules that you actually have to follow. Here I started to add moss on the wall in the background, and I thought it looked awesome. So I started adding moss everywhere, and you'll see in a bit I started adding moss on the window, on the character, even more on the wall. I love the way it looks. This window took so long to render. I don't think I can explain to you the amount of time it took to render this window. It was ridiculous. Here I am showing the entire sped up process of drawing this one part of this stained glass window, just so y'all can get an ounce of the amount of pain that this window gave me. Y'all have the luxury of this being sped up, but I had to sit there for hours drawing this window. Let me tell ya, I'm probably not going to draw a window like this ever again. It was horrible. Window rant over. I started adding this base color on the character because it was getting really hard for me to distinguish the background from the sketch of the character. So I just added that base layer to help add some visual clarity while I rendered this background. I render my backgrounds before my characters most of the time because it helps me get a good idea of the setting my character will be in. It helps me decide what kind of colors I want to give the character and what kind of lighting they should be in. If I rendered my character first, I would have to do a lot of changing later to help them fit in with the background. So I do my backgrounds first. Here I am adding some rim light on this window to help it feel like there's actually light coming through the glass. At this point I added my base colors to my character because I was pretty solid with the background and thought I should probably move on to finally rendering this character. And I spent so long rendering the wing on her head right here. Like, you can see how much more rendered this wing was than the rest of the character. I was hyper fixated on this for no reason. Don't be like me, guys. Try to render your entire character at the same level. Don't just fixate on one part. At this point I started rendering her actual wings, and I think they turned out really nice. I love the way these wings turn out. Oh, would you look at that? Someone went on lunch break and forgot to hit the record button when she came back. So the piece was rendered. Sorry about that, guys. I'm still getting used to this whole YouTube thing. Had a bit of a draw the rest of the owl situation there. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, here's the finished attack for Odd Otter. I'm so happy with the way this turned out. I really hope Odd Otter likes this attack. And it's time for our next one. For my second attack, I decided to do two characters, Jocosa and Aucuses. I thought they were so cool looking. I adored their designs. They looked so cool. And in their descriptions, they said that they were childhood friends. So I decided to draw them together. For my challenge for this attack, I decided to go for this really pastel but saturated, dreamy color scheme. And I also decided to sketch out my background with these color blocks instead of with like a pencil sketch. For this painting, I wanted to draw these two walking down a road surrounded by water and these Greek columns, because these characters are very like ancient Greece coded. I hope that's what the artist was going for anyway. So I decided to draw the water, the columns, and this big cloud framing the piece in the background. I love drawing clouds, and I wanted to draw a really Studio Ghibli looking scene. At this point, I started adding some of the details onto these characters. I really loved the outfits the artist gave these characters, and they were so detailed, so I was gonna have a lot of fun painting them. I love really detailed designs because I can really focus on the rendering process and adding all these small details in. I thought these characters were so cute, especially Aucuses. I don't know, something about his long flowing hair and his really soft face was like so cute to me, so I wanted to do him justice. I started coloring this background with this yellow to kind of set the mood for the whole piece. I was going for this really dreamy, saturated vibe for this picture, and I thought the yellow in combination with all these pastel-y colors worked really well with the kind of aesthetic I was going for. After I filled in the colors for the background, I started working on the colors for the characters. I thought this very saturated red that Jocosa had really popped against this yellow background, and I think the colors just worked really well together. I was throwing these colors down really quickly so I could see how all these colors work together between the characters and the background. I was also trying to paint this drawing as fast as possible because I was doing this the morning of the day I was traveling away from my house. So I had to get it done in kind of a bit of a time crunch, which wasn't the best. I probably should have worked on this sooner, but I really wanted to get this done before my vacation because I am terrible at picking up pieces after leaving them for a while. If you couldn't tell by the pure amount of canvases at the top of my Clip Studio Paint that I haven't cleared out yet, I promise I'll finish those drawings, guys, one day. Anyway, right now I'm adding in some more arches at the top because I felt that like the top of the canvas was a bit empty. Here I'm adding some vines. I didn't think they looked that great, so I do delete them later, so don't get too attached to the vines, guys. I love adding nature to all my pieces, but I really don't think that it added much. As you can see, I'm currently getting rid of them. You know, you have to try things out. It's hard to be able to tell if something's gonna look good without trying it, so don't be too afraid to get experimental in your paintings. It's digital art, you can always change it, so take that to your advantage. Here I started detailing the characters more, and I put in Jocosa's black skirt because for some reason I put it in as white. So I was just fixing that up real quick, adding some very, very loose folds. I was trying to go for more like impressionistic with this piece. I swear I'm not just copying, guys. I was trying to do like a style. I wasn't just being lazy because I had vacation to go on. No, I was trying to go for an impressionistic style, so I wasn't trying to detail things too much. But I wanted the characters to still be accurate. So like here you can see me adding the emblem on his little shirt there. And here I started cleaning up his face because it was not there. So I want to add that back in. Giving him his cute little lipstick. And I'm gonna give him his eyeliner. You know, he slays, so we gotta keep that in. He also has quite the forehead right now. I had to reduce that as soon as possible. He was looking like Megamind there for a second. And I forgot his little side pieces on his hair, so I added that in too. For the gold trim on his skirt, I just kind of added some blobs in there. I wasn't too worried about it looking like anything, to be honest. Like I said, going for that impressionistic style, so not too worried about how details look up close. And then I had to add my signature white flowers. You know, they go with everything, so all my art pieces have to have the white flowers. And then I decided to close off this pathway with another arch up there. I don't know, I thought it fits. Looking back on it, I don't know if it really helped the piece, but I don't think it's taking away, so it's alright. And here I started working on Aucuses' face because he was looking a little blobby and I wanted to clean him up a little bit. You know, make him look like a real person here. Then I started to add some folds in the clothes. I love drawing clothing folds, so I was having a really good time. I also love drawing muscles, so I was happy to clean those up. Then I started working on the hair because up to this point it's kind of been more of a suggestion of hair than an actual idea of hair, I guess. And then I cleaned up his little veil, which I think is so cute. I love it. I never really think of adding veils to my characters, but it's such a cool detail. I noticed that I hadn't really worked on his jewelry or his little arm bands, so I added in his little sleeve thing on his arm, and as you can see, I forgot the other one, and it took me a long time to remember that both arms had the sleeve thing, and not just one. I also didn't draw Jocosa's other foot, so I made sure to add that in because he has 2 feet, so he needs both of them. I gave Aucuses his little dots on his face and some more of the jewelry that I forgot. Can I just say, I am really happy with the way these ruffles turned out on Jocosa's sleeves. I think I did a really good job. I think they look, I don't know, really soft. I like the way they turned out, and I'll definitely remember the technique I used to make them in the future. And then over here, I'm just adding some more blue to Aucuses' shadows to help bring him into the background a little bit more, just make the piece more harmonious, because he was using a lot of gray and the rest of my piece doesn't really have a lot of gray. And then I put this canvas texture on the whole piece to make it look more painty, because I was trying to go for a painty style more so than my normal art here. And then I finally remembered about this other armband, and that was the piece. I hope you like it, and I think it turned out awesome. Yay! Now it's time for the third attack, and let me tell you guys, this one was an absolute journey. When I tell you I had to trust the process, I had to trust the process. But before I get into that, of course, this character is Remi. I wanted to attack this character because I loved her hair. To me, it reminded me of water, which I'm sure that's what they were going for, because Remi also has a pet betta fish. Absolutely adorable. I love betta fish. They are one of my favorite, and that is why my character Marin is based on one. If you don't know who Marin is, you can always watch my last video where I made a 3D model of him. And while I'm plugging random crap, I'll tell you, this video is sponsored by me. I don't have sponsors. I only have 150 subscribers, so I'm way too small for that. But to my 150 subscribers, y'all are my 150 favorite people in the world. So if you're one of them, give yourself a pat on the back. Also, if you made it this far in the video, I'm gonna leave a secret message like my queen Viora always does in her videos. If you're here for this part in the video, which not many people are by this point in my videos, but if you are, leave 3 cloud emojis at the end of one of your comments, and I'll know you're a real one. Also, if you made it this far in the video, I assume you like my content. I don't know why else you'd be here. So if you do, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Anyway, enough of that random yapping. Back to the drawing. I'm just drawing Remi here in this kind of like underwater floaty pose, because obviously I was trying to go for a water theme in this piece. I thought this kind of sad looking pose with her just hanging out at the bottom of the ocean with her fish really fit her vibe. I don't know, she gives kind of like a disappointed vibe in her character drawing, which I really love, so I wanted to make sure that my drawing fits that. My favorite part of this whole drawing was sketching out her hair. She has so much hair, and I had so much fun drawing it in this underwater setting because I could draw it floating and going everywhere. I made sure to curl some of her hair around her arm and around her hips there, just because I think it adds so much dynamic movement to the drawing, and it really helps lead your eye around. I love drawing hair like this, so I was having a really good time. And I haven't mentioned what the challenge for this attack was. So I've been seeing this one account on my Instagram For You page where they draw their entire drawing in grayscale, and then they add a gradient map and then color with a hard light layer. And I was dying to try that, so I thought that I'd go for this very, very painty style for this piece. I know I've been saying painty style for all of my attacks, but I was really trying to go for a more classical painty style. I was using a lot of textured brushes. The one I used the most was the legendary line art brush from Mark Brunette. This brush pack is really good, and I recommend all of you get it. You just have to go to his YouTube channel and he has it linked. It's completely free and I love using it. It has the perfect amount of texture with the opacity being able to change with your pen pressure, which I really like. And my favorite thing is to use brushes for what they're not intended to be used for. So this was originally made as a line art brush, but I'm using it as a paintbrush. And I think that is so much fun. At this stage in my grayscale drawing, I was noticing that the values were very low contrast. And the whole point of a grayscale drawing like this is to really focus on the values of your piece. So I really made sure to darken down some parts and add highlights on places like the hair and the sleeves. And then after adding all those highlights, I added some darker parts around the back of her head, in her hair, around her stomach area, just all the spots that needed to be darkened more. I also worked on rendering out the hair more. Since the hair was such a big focus of this piece, I really made sure that it popped. And I added jewelry that I had forgotten to add, like her necklace. She has way more necklaces and way more jewelry. Oh, here I'm adding it. And her third necklace. And then I went in and added her earrings because she does have those, and I made sure I needed to include that. And the lights still weren't light enough, so I added even more light gray on top of the piece, especially around the face, like the nose and the lips, making sure the lips are really juicy, not Cooling style. But then I decided it was too much and I backed it off a little bit. I think this drawing took me around 4 hours, if I remember right, but I swear 3 of those hours were just rendering the face. I kept going back to it and making very small changes that I don't think anyone would have noticed if I hadn't done them, so I'll definitely keep that in mind in the future. And then I remembered I completely forgot to add the fish, so I needed to quickly pop that fish back in here. I have not really drawn a hyper realistic fish like this before, so I had a lot of references pulled up. If you have one thing to take away from this rambling video, just know, please use references. They are so important. I could not have drawn this fish without looking at the references, so please look at references. It will make a huge difference in your art. And here's the part where I started adding the gradient map in. This is where I found out if I had done a good job in the grayscale. I went with a blue gradient map with yellow highlights, and then on top I did all the base colors with the heart light layer, which is what you can see here, all my base colors added in. And then on top I added these glowy gradients on, I believe it was a color dodge layer. It was either that or an overlay. I added these gradients to help make the hair look like it was reflecting light. And then I went in and added some bounce light from the hair onto the clothes. And then a multiply layer on top to just darken some areas. And here I'm adding in water. I thought the bottom right of the canvas was looking really empty, so I decided to add this kind of like flowing water stream. This took a long time, but it was really therapeutic, honestly. For this water, all I did was add this blue shape in, I erased the middle, and then I just took a brush and started smearing the colors from like the hand and the hair in the middle of the water to make it look like it was reflecting the light. And then I added this really bright highlight on top to, make the water look like water. I also added some splashing around the water, like bubbles and, just little things to make the water look more watery. Sorry if that explanation wasn't very detailed, but that's all I did. And then I had an idea to make these bangs look like crashing waves, and I loved how it looked. So I made all the hair around her face literally into water. The character didn't originally have this, but I don't know, I thought it was a nice touch. And then I added some more shadows on the betta fish to make it look like it's reflecting the environment. And that was the final piece. I love how the water turned out, and I think it looks awesome. Time for the secret special attack. Wait a second, this isn't Clip Studio Paint. Oh, that sounds stupid. For my last attack in this video, I am crocheting. I don't think anyone watching this video has seen my first one, but I do crochet. And for my last attack, I was really wanting to make a plushie. So I decided to make a plushie of Lynn. I mean, look at her. She's adorable. I needed to make her a plushie, like right now. And in her lore, it does say that she is a doll, so I think it's quite fitting. Right now, I'm crocheting the head, and this was the part where I had to invert the neck hole. Things you only say when you're crafting, I guess. Crocheting takes me forever, so I had to definitely set aside way more time for this attack than my other two. This one took me 2 days, and that was really pushing it. I was rushing this thing. Oh, during this point I was getting very distracted because this absolute abomination was on my screen, and it was making me laugh, and it was hard to focus. With that, I recommend that video, guys. You should watch it. It's really funny. Anyway, yeah. Remember to hydrate, guys. Also, every time you see me drink water in this part of the video, you should drink water. Let's make it a little drinking game. It'll get you very hydrated, I'll tell you that much. At this point in the head, I put the eyes in because if none of you have crocheted before, you need to put the eyes in before you close the head so that you can put the backings on. I see a lot of beginner crocheters make this mistake where they close the head before putting the eyes in. Oh, hydrate again. So make sure that you put these eyes in before you close the head. Then I had to take out the stuffing because when I put in my eyes, I also do all the embroidery on the face. Embroidery can sound very scary to people who've never tried it before, but you really need to know only the basics when you're making a crochet plushie. Here I'm just putting on the eyelashes. Lynn has 2 eyelashes on the top, so I made sure to keep that accurate, and I gave her 2 eyelashes. And then I immediately threw that accuracy away because I didn't give her any bottom eyelashes, even though she does in her original design. So I hope the artist behind Lynn can forgive me for that transgression. And after I did the eyelashes, I did some little blush in between her eyes. I've never added blush here before on any of my dolls, but I think it looks adorable, so I'll definitely be doing that in the future. And I had to restuff the head. And after all the embroidery, she looked like this. So cute. And then of course I had to close off the head. I believe the water counter is now at 3. This was a long drink, good lord, I was thirsty, I guess. And with the head all closed off, it looks like this. Absolutely adorable. As you can see, I was very happy with the way this turned out. Oh, and would you look at that, it grew a body. I don't think I had footage of me making the body, but it was really simple. It was just like the head. Here I'm starting to work on her legs. I crocheted her shoes right into her legs since this is a very small scale plushie, it's nice to add details like this as part of the actual body itself. So like, as you'll see in a little bit, I make the sleeves as part of the arms. It helps save space and make the doll less chunky overall. Also, at this stage, I don't know why, I think the plushie is so cute with just this head and body. It kind of looks like a me, but I don't know, something about it is so cute to me. I have no idea why. I hope you enjoyed that little leg crocheting time lapse. And here is the finished leg. I think it turned out awesome with the shoes. I don't know, it looks a lot like the boots in the original character design, so I'm really happy about that. It doesn't show well on camera, but I did embroider little hearts on the sides of her shoes. So if you caught that detail, you got good eyes. And here I'm making the sleeve slash arm. It was really quick and easy to make. It wasn't very many rows. I got that balloon sleeve shape in there, and then for the armband, I could have just crocheted that into the body, but to be honest, I forgot about it when I was crocheting. So after I finished crocheting the whole arm, I went back in and just wrapped some white yarn around the arm to emulate that like arm sleeve band. And here she is with her one arm on the body. You can see the little yarn I wrapped around for her sleeve cuff. And with the power of editing, here's her other arm. I was getting a really good feeling about this plushie at this point. I think the body was turning out really good and it gave me a lot of confidence. Here I am starting to work on her wig cap. For crochet wig caps, I picked up this tip from Madame Crochets. If you know her, she makes all her plushies hair with this type of wig cap, where instead of crocheting with both loops, you crochet in the back loop only, and it makes this really cool like ribbed effect across the whole hair cap, which allows you to crochet all the hair directly on the wig cap. Since there's all these extra loops on the outside you can attach your hook to. I thought that this was so smart, so now I use it for all of my plushies. Also, crocheting in the back loop only makes the entire piece super stretchy, so it like almost vacuum seals to the head. It fits really well, even though it looks like it won't. You just gotta trust the process, and you'll see that the wig cap does fit, which I think is so cool. To get the pattern for this wig cap, take a drink of water every time I say wig cap, I guess, add to the drinking game going on. To make the pattern, all I do is literally copy the head pattern until I have enough rows to cover the head, as you can see here. See, it fits like a glove. And after I make this wig cap, I start marking out where I want the sections of hair to be. Of course, after I play with the plushie for a little bit. And here you can see my lines. I was planning on doing 2 layers of hair in the back here, and this row of pins is where I was going to start my first row. And then, of course, the line across the top of the head is her hairline, which will section out where her 2 pigtails are going to be. Here you you can see me attaching my yarn in one of the loops that are exposed on the outside of the wig cap. This is what makes it so nice to have this wig cap. For the hair strands, all I do is chain my crochet as long as I want the hair strand to be, and then I go back up with a slip stitch, which is the shortest stitch, a single crochet, which is just a little bit taller, and then a half double crochet, which is the tallest that I get with these hair strands. Doing this type of pattern gives the tip of the hair strand a really nice point. It looks really nice and cartoony. And after I finish crocheting a strand of hair, I go back and just twist it up a little bit. I did add increases along the hair strands, which when you add an increase on a strand of crochet like this, it makes it curl up. So if you're trying to do curls, make sure you add increases. And then I repeat the same type of step all along this row I'm doing of hair, and it gives a nice first layer for the hair. And here's the hair all done. And as you can see, I changed outfits during that transition because this was the start of the second day. Don't mind my Adidas sweatshirt. Here I started working on the bangs. If you remember, which I sure hope you do, it was 10 seconds ago, I said that I put increases along the strand to curl them up. Well, for the bangs, I did a mixture of increases and decreases. Instead of making it curl up, it makes this really cool wavy pattern. I learned this technique from a zigzag scarf I was making like 3 years ago that I never finished. But I remember them doing a mixture of decreases and increases to get the zigzag shape. So I just repeated that for these hair strands for her bangs. And would you look at that? I finished the bangs and added some hair strands on the side of her head. Don't know what happened there. And here I finished those hair strands on the side of her head, and now they're all the way around her head. I was really liking how the hairstyle was turning out. I mean, look how cute it is so far. I could not wait to start getting those pigtails going. As you can see, there is a massive bald spot on the back of her head, and I don't want my plushie to be balding, so let's fix that. Oh, my cup. We haven't hydrated in a while. I was starting to think I forgot about that, to be honest. And if you're counting, we're at 5. So, oh, there she is. There's my plushie. At this point, I finished her hair, everything except the pigtails. Here you can get a better look at her bangs and also the back of her head. When I am crocheting a plushie with a ponytail or pigtails, I crochet the part where her hair is going into the pigtails and the pigtails separately, because if you couldn't tell, there's a lot of strands covering the top of her head, and I did not want that many strands in her pigtail. So here I'm actually working on her pigtail. All I do is make a little magic ring of 6 stitches, and then I add 3 hair strands. Looking at the character design, she has pretty small pigtails that are just placed at the side of her head, so I made sure to make these pigtails thin as well. And I chose 3 hair strands because I felt like that would have the best amount of volume for this situation. I made these hair strands the exact same as I made the hair strands on her head, except I added more increases so that they'd be extra curly. Water counter is officially at 6, by the way. Here is her finished pigtail. So cute. I was really happy with it. And obviously she has 2 pigtails, not just one, so I need to make the other one. And here she is with both her pigtails. I think I did a really good job on the hair. Look how cute she is. And with this quick decapitation, it is time to start working on her outfit. For her outfit, I was using her body as the base shirt because the plushie would be really bulky if I decided to crochet her dress on top of her body. So I'm using her torso here as the shirt. So right now I am crocheting her little skirt. I crocheted her skirt in 2 layers. I crocheted the white layer here, and then I added scallop all around the edges, just like the design has. Here you can see me fighting with my white yarn ball because there was a giant knot in the middle, and I'd rather die than detangle my yarn balls. And after that wrestling match was over, I also crocheted the bottom layer of the skirt in this blue color, the same one as the body. And I crocheted these in 2 separate layers, so I needed to sew them together. And I also added this little white part on the top of the top layer of the skirt before I forgot. I could have done this after I sewed them together, but I did it before. And with the power of magic, wow, would you look at that? They're already sewn together. And now I embroidered the hearts all over her dress, onto her dress. I love these little heart details. They're so cute. She has them on her boots, on her dress, and on her sleeves. I think it's so cute. When sewing or putting together a crochet doll, you can either go down the good path, which is where you sew everything, or you can go down the dark path, which is giving in to the hot glue gun temptation. And for this project, I definitely went with the hot glue gun. It's so much easier than sewing the hair to the head, and I found that it gives a way flatter result. When I sew hair onto the head, it makes it kind of bumpy. With all that being said, my family was watching a really interesting documentary downstairs while I was doing this, so I did take my crochet doll downstairs and I ended up sewing most of the hair to the head anyway. But when it was over, I went straight back to hot gluing. And after hot gluing all the hair to the head, I also hot glued the body onto the head, and here she was all put together. All that's left is to add a couple finishing details and then show you guys the final results. Once again, here are all the pieces I made in this video. I'm so happy with how everything turned out, and everyone really liked these attacks, so I'm so glad they liked it. All of the artists in this video are linked down in the description, so if you liked the characters that I made fan art for, I guess, then please go check out their profiles. They have so many awesome characters on their profiles, not just the ones that I picked. I have also gotten attacked this art fight, so here are a couple of the attacks I have received. I am so grateful for all you guys and to the people who have drawn art of my characters. So to them, I want to say thank you so much. I really love them. I also want to give a big thank you to all of you who sat through this video. It was way longer than I expected it to be. I mean, I thought it was going to be 20 minutes long, not 50 minutes, but I hope you maybe got some work done during this video, like put it on in the background while you were drawing your own attacks. I think that's all I have for this video. Thank you guys once again for watching, and make sure you follow me on Instagram. And if you liked this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so I would really appreciate it if you subscribed. I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye bye.